Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Sarita. I have several hauls of candles. This is kind of the candle buying, I think, moment here, right before things really pick up in terms of Christmas shopping, and we start feeling as if, oh my gosh, I have enough Christmas candles. I don't need to buy any more. Yeah, so I have a lot of things just sitting here off camera that I know I need to talk about, but if we do not start clearing some of these burned candles away and reviewing them, I'm gonna be in big trouble. These candles are actually fall candles, so I apologize for the unseasonality of this, but I suppose it's probably for posterity if nothing else. These are fall candles that I actually burned in the November season, but what with the chaos of like coffee week, we did an entire week of just coffee candles. I got really backed up and ended up just doing November empties and being like, we'll deal with some of those November candles in the first week of December. And here we are almost in the second week of December. All right, so anyway, I have two fall candles for you today from Homeworx. And I believe, yes, I bought both of these at Marshall's or TJ Maxx or Home Goods. This one I bought at TJ Maxx. This one was is Autumn in the Park. And to my knowledge, this is a brand new candle for the fall season. This is a very lovely wraparound, but bizarrely, it's like oversaturated in terms of color, which is, again, a point of view, but kind of bizarre. Like the grass is just a little bit too like spring lime green, etc. Anyway, Autumn in the Park. This made the rounds not only at Marshall's and TJ Maxx, various retailers like that, but also featured prominently on the Slatkin website. I don't know if it's still there. He may have gotten rid of a lot of those seasonal candles at this stage in the game. It did come out in, I believe, a 4-wick and a 3-wick, but the 3-wick was the most common one at Marshall's and TJ Maxx, and I do have the 3-wick here to talk about. So yeah, Autumn in the Park. And then the second candle that I did pick up, which again is a new candle for this fall, is Autumn Vineyard. And this one is saturated only with golden hues. So everything is washed out in this yellow color. Don't really know what's going on with that, but at any rate, again, the photorealistic label, I would have liked a little bit more variation here. Autumn Vineyard, and weirdly, I'm gonna show you this. Weirdly, the pour date right here has like been covered over with another pour date. So I don't really know what's underneath it. Not gonna bother trying to peel it up, but what is listed here on the top little label is July of this year being poured. This Autumn in the Park has the same thing. Look, it's like this like little label has been put over that date. Who knows why? This one allegedly was poured in May of this year. Okay, so I think they're brand new fragrances, and I'm not well steeped enough in Harry Slatkin candles to be able to tell you for certain that this is not a repackage. Either one is not a repackage of something, but to my knowledge, neither one is. They're truly new fragrances for the fall season. I was really interested in Autumn Vineyard, less so in Autumn in the Park, but I was intrigued when I smelled it in the store, so I brought it home. Let's start out with actually Autumn Vineyard, because I did not think this was a successful candle. So I was really excited about this one because I was watching Connor from Connor Loves Candles, who is a Homeworx brand ambassador, and he got sent it in PR. He actually asked for it because I guess as a brand ambassador, you have like a choice of the things that you can choose from to get sent to you, etc. And he went with Autumn Vineyard, but he was kind of holding his breath because Connor doesn't love, and I'm with him, and a lot of people are with him actually, doesn't love the really sugary grape note that can sometimes appear in quote unquote vineyard candles. I think he didn't say this. I do think he's a little gun shy because Kringle, and he's a Kringle ambassador as well. Kringle has had several real disasters of grape candles over the last couple years that he didn't like, and frankly that nobody should have liked. I mean, God bless, you can like whatever you want, but they were very like Kool-Aid grape candles. Sometimes going under the name of like Merlot or something like that. So I think that he was a little wary that this Autumn Vineyard would in fact be another like Kool-Aid grape kind of candle. As you can see, the wax is this amazing like tarragon yellow, basically, or alfalfa, or I don't know what you would call this, a squash yellow, which is an odd color for a candle which is named Autumn Vineyard, but not odd when you see the photorealistic label that's like washed out in this kind of a color. Very oddly, for the name of this, there is just nothing. Okay, so the first note here is listed is sparkling wine. It doesn't say what kind of wine though, it just says sparkling wine. And then fragrant orange, I assume that means as in the citrus. But who knows? Maybe it just means the fragrant color. And then the third note is autumn leaves, which is kind of a fantasy and nonsense note. And then we have the fourth note listed, which is golden amber. And again, we assume that by amber, we are talking about like the resinous substance here rather than the color. It's a very golden candle. So basically, it's a little bit unclear what this candle is gonna smell like. And it's a very odd candle. It's very odd. No, it's not grape at all. So by sparkling wine, the only thing I can think is that the kind of high citrus note here, which is just kind of very like high and sharp, tangy, acidic, that note is somehow supposed to stand in for something sparkling. I wouldn't say it's effervescent. I would just say that it's acidic. It's high and acidic. And for my money, it seems more like a lemon than it does an orange. If I smelled it, I would think for sure lemon. This kind of reminds me of, like, there have been a few times when I was sick and I had like a lemon tea with a lot of lemon and maybe some ginger, you know? Just that really high acidic kind of lemon that otherwise would probably be very unpleasant and unbalanced. But when you're sick and you can't taste anything, you're just like, okay, fine. You appreciate like the abrasiveness of it, I guess. That's kind of like the scent right on top is this almost medicinal or herbal lemon note that could be like a lemon verbena. It could be like a lemon tea. I don't know. Something like that. And that's pretty much all, and with a kind of a honeyed aspect as well. Yeah, that's what you do. You do the lemon tea with the honey in it. That's kind of what this smells like, is a lemon tea with a honey. Kind of faint and just kind of vaguely herbal smelling, maybe a little medicinal. When you burn it though, it transforms. And when you burn it, it gets, all of a sudden you start smelling kind of some spices underneath and almost a leather-like quality to it, so that it kind of goes a little bit more like, I don't know, one of those usual kind of leather masculine leaning autumn fragrances. Still warm, still very ambery, kind of perfumey, kind of spicy in that like rugged masculine kind of way. And like I said, a little bit of soft leather. I would call it like a white leather or a suede or something like that. And I would say that that's the more dominant note. The caveat being that this candle was virtually unscented in almost every single room that I put it in. I mean, finally, the guest bathroom was the final resort. And I would say in the guest bathroom, it would get up to about a 3 or a 4. And at a 3 and a 4, I could kind of smell that like leathery, more like perfume cologne-y kind of vibe. It wasn't deep and bassy. So like I said, it was a kind of a higher leather, like a suede or a white leather with amber And then because it has that citrus component on top, which could be lemon, it could be bergamot. They're saying it's orange, I don't know. But when you have a bergamot and you have a amber, and then you have something kind of musky, or in this case, almost like leathery, then it's basically the standard or traditional profile for a men's cologne. So I would say that this does lean a little bit masculine, with the caveat being that it is lifted up in the register a little bit so that it is a little bit more unisexual, a little bit lighter, not quite as like cliched in terms of it being a standard men's cologne. Yeah, I like it neither on cold nor being burned, although I preferred it being burned because I did kind of like the amber, almost like a cowboy suede autumn kind of fragrance. I think it's very misnamed. If you're gonna put vineyard in the name, it should be obvious why there's a vineyard note, even if it's just like a botanical vine note or something like that. But you really don't want to waste the term vineyard for something that just has absolutely nothing to do with a vineyard. Honestly, I would have called it autumn afternoon. I would have just called it autumn afternoon. There's something that's like so sun-soaked about this label, and frankly about the fragrance itself, not even to mention the color of the wax. There's kind of like a sun-baked in the afternoon. You know those early autumn afternoons where it gets very cool at night, but you still have those afternoons where it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and the sun is beating down and you almost forget that it's the fall, that it could almost be summer, with the exception of the colors outside kind of changing a little bit, being a little more rust colored, etc. You kind of got the cat laying in the slit of sun coming in the window, baking the wood floor. It just has a very like early autumn afternoon feel. I think this is an early autumn afternoon kind of candle. It's what they should have called it. Forget the vineyard. There's nothing sparkling. There's nothing wine-like. There's nothing even fruity about this candle, with the exception of that like high acidic citrusy kind of note, which when it's burned just kind of morphs into a standard bergamot with amber perfumey kind of thing. So I don't really know where they were going with this candle. To me, it seems a little half-assed. It kind of feels like we were trying to put something together. It didn't really get off the ground, but then we were just like, who cares? Throw it out there, you know? It's another fall candle. It sounds good. It looks good. It sounds seasonal. Just put it out there. But I suspect nobody's clamoring to see this again, and I doubt that it will come back, at least in this same iteration. I mean, like I said, the strength and throw was almost non-existent on it. So everything that I could discern from the fragrance had to be discerned from a small guest bathroom, if you know what I mean. So that is Autumn Vineyard. No, I don't recommend it for a whole host of reasons, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad fragrance or a bad fragrance beginning. It just needs a whole lot more development before we can even discern or judge what kind of candle it is and how we feel about it. All right, that was not the case for Autumn in the Park, though. Autumn in the Park was a very distinct point of view, and despite the fact that it was a 3-wick, it had very powerful strength and throw. Like, it very much held its own. I think in the open concept, it probably landed in the 6.5 range, maybe 7. And then in the back bedroom was a strong 7.5. Strong, if not an 8 sometimes once it was burned. So it had a very good point of view. And like I said, performed very much above average, even given the fact that it was a 3-wick, which goes to show you that, like, you really don't need an extra wick. You just need a good candle development. You need the right wick with the right wax formula, with the right oils, with the right fragrance, etc., etc. Yes? And there have been several 3-wicks that I've burned of Harry Slatkin's that have really been excellent. Black Tie is the one in recent memory that I can remember. But yeah, it's not necessarily the case that all his 3-wicks are duds. And to be between us, if it's a dud and it's an underperformer, it honestly doesn't matter a whole lot whether it's a 3-wick or a 4-wick. That's been my sense. You can add another wick to that candle. It might help it marginally, but not significantly. So again, I think it has less to do with the number of wicks, obviously within a certain range. A 1-wick is going to struggle over like a 3-wick, a multiple wick, you know, for a whole host of reasons. But yeah, when you were talking the difference between a 3 and a 4 though, marginal, as we're finding out with Kringle. All right, so Autumn in the Park, the notes on this one are fig leaves, eucalyptus, autumn mums, and warm amber. Again, an odd one to try to envision when you're thinking of the notes, because you've got autumn mums, which is fantastic. I really love the idea of an autumn floral when it can be done really well. You know, the chrysanthemums, like when it's kind of one of those metallic smelling flowers, you know, that's not like high and sweet and fragrant like the spring ones. I think it's great. And again, you know that I'm like a fan of pushing the envelope a little bit with the autumn fragrances. They don't all have to be pumpkin spice and apple, right? Autumn mums, warm amber, those make sense. Those make sense to me, and they make sense from a Harry Slatkin standpoint. He loves his amber. He has an excellent amber. He knows how to use amber. So amber doesn't surprise me. Warm amber doesn't surprise me. Amber in the fall doesn't surprise me. And amber with a floral doesn't surprise me. He does florals too. So this all makes sense. Mums, amber, fine. What puzzles me, actually fig leaves make sense too, and it's very intriguing to me because you still have that botanical element. And again, I have been very vocal about the fact that I think fig needs to be used a whole lot more often in the fall, along with a couple other fruits like plum and even cherry, but certainly fig. This says fig leaves, so he's going maybe for a little bit more of a green botanical element up against the mums. That might be very interesting with the amber. I'm excited about that. And then the weird one is eucalyptus. And now all bets off. Eucalyptus it's a rough fragrance note. It can get really overwhelming fast. It's very medicinal smelling. It can be very cool, almost mentholated. How is that going to play with the warmth and frankly, the botanical warmth of the leaves, of the floral, of the amber? Mums can go a little bit metallic or mineral-like. And if you add eucalyptus to that, would that be too much? You know, I mean, like you're thinking about all these things, just reading something on paper. So it is indeed very strange. And when I smell, I drink in deeply and I think intensely of those list of notes. My mind is at least telling me that I can discern something that is a little bit sweet floral, a little bit like fruity, dark, vine-like, a la fig leaves. Definitely something that is vaguely perfumey in a very warm filler kind of way, which is the amber. And then, I know this is going to sound bizarre, and then something that smells to me like aquatic, possibly cucumber-like, okay? So I want you to cast your mind back to last year when the new candle for Harry Slatkin was, I believe, Autumn Fall Foliage. No, it wouldn't have been Autumn Fall. That would be redundant. It was Fall Foliage? Something foliage. You know what it is. But remember, it was dragged for being the dill pickle candle because people thought it smelled like a dill pickle. It was kind of like herbal with a very overt, what I discovered was kind of an overt cucumber, aquatic cucumber note. That up against some funky herbs, and people thought it smelled like a dill pickle, right? It's that kind of vibe. To me, this candle right here smells like that one was kind of a disaster, but they took it back to the drawing board. And this is like part 2 of that same concept, but it's working better. It's working better. That's what it smells like to me. And to be honest, the label around it is very similar to what that Fall Foliage one was, which I believe did have some sort of body of water in it. if I recall correctly. So not only is the label very similar from that fall foliage candle, you know, last year, but the fragrance smells very similar as well. And I don't have one of those foliage candles here to like compare it to, but to my remembrance, they're sister scents. It's just that this one is so much more pleasant than the foliage one, which was sharper, more discordant, and definitely more evocative of like a cucumber note. And the only thing that I can think, and I can't remember the notes of the foliage one, I don't know that it necessarily said eucalyptus. It may have said eucalyptus. I do know that it had some sort of like herbal thing mentioned. And maybe it was eucalyptus in both of them. And I've never really thought eucalyptus smelled aquatic necessarily, but it must be the eucalyptus up against various different notes that makes it come across as aquatic and almost a little cucumber-like. And maybe it's that fig vine too that is gonna have a very like green vegetal kind of element. Maybe it's that green vegetal from the fig vine up with the eucalyptus. I don't know what the chemical reaction is here that's being made. All I can tell you is that there is an aspect in this candle that seems a little aquatic cucumbery. And then there's part of it that's like very warm and glowy and sweet and floral and yes. So it's a little bit of a push and pull candle with the cool and the warm and the water and the dry and the floral. It's a really interesting smell. And I have to give high points for it just being so unique. And I gave points for the foliage candle the same way. I was like, I don't really know if I like this. But high marks for thinking outside the box and giving us something bizarre. I've been asking for someone to push the envelope here for a fall fragrance, and here is one, and I need to like acknowledge it. I need to give some sort of like, you know, marks here for originality. Not all of your most original ideas are going to be winners. But I love that we're pushing the boundaries here. We're taking some risks and we're mixing together some things that maybe shouldn't go together. Yes, but I do have to say that this is much more successful and much more pleasant and much better balanced than that fall foliage candle is. So let's clear our minds. Let's shake our heads like Etch-a-Sketches. Let's forget the foliage candle. This is Foliage 2.0. Foliage 2.0, and now it's easier to smell this and be like, okay, I think I know what you were going for, or this at least smells like something I wouldn't mind my house smelling like. That being said, I still can't say that I like worship this fragrance or like need it. I still, every time I lit it up, was kind of like, ooh, do you feel in the mood for this? Frankly, it's how I feel about the Happy Hanukkah candle right now from Bath & Body Works, which probably not coincidentally has some of the same elements, i.e. it's got this weird aquatic element with a spicy / herbal dimension and something which is like warm at the same time. And I'm just not sure that I like that combination. And it's so bizarre. And you don't know how many times I know I need to burn a candle. I know I need to continue burning. I'm almost done with Happy Hanukkah. But do you know how many times I'm like, do I feel in the mood for Happy Hanukkah tonight? You know that when you're second guessing and you're asking yourself if you're in the mood for a candle, that tells you that that candle is special. That candle is not just one that you can light up, that it's prickly or it's a certain specific point of view when you have to really be in the mood for it. That is exactly how I felt about this candle. I mean, it wasn't as bad as the foliage one, which was just like you had to kind of gird your loins to burn it. It wasn't like that. Like I said, this is a much more pleasing and balanced candle, but I still kind of had to be in the mood for it. So Also amplified by the fact that it had really good strength and throw. And frankly, so did the fall foliage one. So it's not a candle that you can kind of hide in the corner or in your bathroom and be kind of like, how are we doing in here every now and then? Do I like that smell? I mean, if you light this up, it's gonna possibly fill your space. So you really do absolutely have to be in the mood for it. Like I said, I don't know how many times as reviewers we will review a candle and be like, I don't know that this is what it should be. But if they went back to the drawing board and did X or did Y or whatever, then I would be interested in seeing another version of this. How many times does that actually happen? And I do think that, I mean, maybe it's unintentional, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is an intentional 2.0 from the foliage candle last year. And I applaud them for not just throwing the whole thing away, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. They are convinced in their lab that they've got something here and they want to develop it further. And they did with this candle. So I think we're heading in the right trajectory. Heading in the right direction with this particular fragrance, but I don't know what else needs to happen to it for it to improve more than it is right now. And I do think it needs to improve more than it is right now. Otherwise, it's just gonna kind of be one of those very odd acquired taste kind of fall candles that everyone vaguely remembers being odd. But nobody really like clamoring for it to come back, if that makes any sense. So, but if you're one of those people that just, hey, if it has good strength and throw, I'm there. I'll line up for that. And it's unique and it's probably not something you've ever smelled before. So if you're, kind of an adventurous candle person like that, you might be interested in a candle like this. And I suspect you can probably get it cheap if it's available anywhere. Yeah, Autumn in the Park. Did you burn this one? Did you get it from Marshall's? Did you get it from TJ Maxx? Did you get it from the Slatkin website? Did you get it in 4-wick? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments down below, and definitely let me know about Autumn Vineyard too. I may be missing something here, but for me, it just seemed like a very underdeveloped candle, very underwhelming, and probably one we could have done without this year. That is one that definitely needs to go back to the drawing board. So that's what I've got for you, my friends. 2 Harry Slatkins, and yes, these were fall candles, but I think they're relatively new and they deserve reviews. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. If either one of them is available, I'll link it down below and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.